Have you ever wondered why your favorite brand suddenly changed its entire personality, only to just totally crash and burn?
Oh, it happens all the time.
Right, like you're a loyal customer, you've been buying their stuff for years, and then out of nowhere, they just pivot.
Yeah, a total 180.
Exactly. They roll out this new marketing campaign, radically change the product line, and it just feels totally alien. So, welcome to today's deep dive into the surprisingly cutthroat, highly engineered world of customer growth.
And it really is a dynamic that trips up even the most, seasoned executives out there.
Which is wild to think about.
It is
Go ahead.
because, we are all conditioned to assume that a business growing its customer base is an inherently positive thing, right?
Right, more customers equals more money.
Exactly. Wall Street demands constant, unrelenting growth, and that pressures managers to acquire new customers at almost any cost.
But treating growth as just like a simple numbers game.
It's so dangerous. Bolting on completely new demographics without understanding the underlying ecosystem is, well, it's like introducing a foreign invasive species into a delicate habitat.
Oh, wow, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it might look like expansion on a spreadsheet, but it can literally tear the whole environment apart.
And to really illustrate just how spectacularly that can backfire, we have to look at the 2015 Land's End catastrophe.
Oh man, a classic disaster story.
Total disaster. So for those listening, picture Land's End before this happened. For decades, their core customer base was incredibly well defined, right?
Right.
It was middle class, frugal, suburban parents.
The kings and queens of sensible fleeces.
Exactly. Sensible fleeces, dowdy chinos, comfortable sweaters. It was this very wholesome, highly functional aesthetic.
Right, it was an identity built entirely on reliability and practicality. It was completely divorced from high fashion.
Completely.
People bought Lands' End because it worked for their everyday lives. Not because they wanted to make a statement on a runway somewhere.
But then the board brings in this new CEO, Federica Marchioni. And her previous job, she was the U.S. head of Dolce & Gabbana.
Which is just, the culture clash there is insane.
Insane. So she steps into this Midwestern sensible fleece company, presumably wearing like an impeccably tailored Italian business suit, and decides Land's End needs to court millennials.
Of course she did.
Yeah, she wants to make it fashion-forward, edgy, and aspirational.
And the psychological disconnect here is just staggering because she wasn't just tweaking the brand, she was actively rejecting its foundation.
Right. There were reports about her internal presentations.
Yeah, she would look at the brand's classic best-selling clothing and literally scoff. She'd ask her team, who would wear that?
Wow. Contempt for your own customers.
Profound contempt for the very people keeping the lights on. It's wild.
And daring doesn't even begin to cover the actual product changes she made.
Yeah.
I mean, she introduced spiked red heel.
At Land's End.
At Land's End, she rolled out skin-tight athleisure clothing, a pink cocktail jumpsuit,
Oh, the jumpsuit.
and an evening jacket that retailed for $600.
So just think about the mechanics of what happens to a brand's ecosystem when a shift like that occurs. You have two customer groups that are fundamentally clashing.
The core matrix of our deep dive today, right?
Yeah.
The segment compatibility matrix.
Exactly. This is the first quadrant incompatible segments. On one side, you have the loyal suburban parents looking for functional clothes to wear while doing weekend chores.
Right.
And on the other side, you have Marchioni's fantasy demographic, right? Upscale fashionistas looking for trendy, status-signaling pieces.
It's like trying to host a dinner party where you invite your rowdiest college friends and your conservative in-laws to sit at the same small table.
That is a perfect analogy.
Right. Not only do they want completely different things out of the night, but the mere presence of one group ruins the experience for the other.
Precisely. When customer groups are highly influenced by each other in a negative way, the brand just becomes a battleground. You cannot just mash these two identities together.
Because the fashionista doesn't want to be associated with the suburban mom.
Right. The hypothetical fashionista who buys that sleek pink cocktail jumpsuit does not want her aesthetic associated with a mom buying a cable knit sweater for the elementary school fall fair.
It the vibe.
It destroys the social currency of the outfit completely. And conversely, the suburban mom opens the catalog, sees these stilettos, and feels totally alienated.
Like the brand is telling her she isn't cool enough anymore.
Exactly. The value just evaporates for everyone involved.
And the financial nosedive at Land's End really proves it. Those younger, affluent millennial customers she was courting, they never materialized.
Because why would they buy cocktail attire from a fleece company?
Exactly. Meanwhile, the loyalists felt betrayed and just abandoned ship. In just 1 year, Land's End went from a $9.2 million profit to a $7.7 million loss.
Just a staggering collapse, and Marchionni was ousted within 2 years.
So the hard lesson there is that you can't force incompatible worlds to collide without massive casualties.
Right, and this is what makes the field of segment relationship management so fascinating. Some brands actually have survived injecting a totally alien, seemingly incompatible demographic into their ecosystem.
Wait, really? Who managed to pull that off?
Well, one of the most culturally ridiculed brands of the early 2000s used this exact maneuver to save themselves from total bankruptcy.
Okay, I have to know.
It was Crocs.
No way. The giant foam
This
clogs.
very same.
But they were literally a punchline. I mean, they were used as a prop in the 2005 movie Idiocracy to represent like a dystopian future where human taste had completely died out.
Yep, that's the one.
And I remember that famous internet meme with the picture of a bright orange croc. The text just said, "See those little holes? That is where your dignity leaks out."
It was brutal. The mockery was relentless.
So how could they possibly add a new demographic without alienating everyone?
Well, we have to look at the dire situation they were in first. When they launched their classic clog in 2002, their core customers were a group they called the feel-goods.
Okay, feel goods.
Yeah, so gardeners, boaters, nurses, culinary workers, people who valued utilitarian, squishy, slip-resistant physical comfort.
That makes sense.
But by the late 2000s, that intense social mockery you mentioned became a massive financial liability. The fear of public ridicule started to outweigh the functional comfort, even for the core users.
Oh, so even the nurses were getting embarrassed to wear them.
Exactly. And compounding the problem, the shoes were practically indestructible.
Oh, right. They're foam. They never break.
So people rarely bought replacements. When the 2008 financial crisis hit, the company was in a total death spiral. By 2009, their stock had plummeted to around $1 single.
Wow. Just $1. So they are staring down the barrel of bankruptcy. What was the pivot?
They needed a new customer segment to breathe life back into the brand. So they made a highly calculated decision to target a group they called explorers.
Explorers. Okay. Who are they?
Cool, hip, fashion-forward trendsetters. They saw an emerging cultural shift toward ugly luxury and decided to just lean in completely.
Lean in is an understatement. I mean, they started doing these wild, high-end runway collaborations. Balenciaga, Post Malone. They literally made a fried chicken-scented clog in collaboration with KFC,
Ah, the KFC Crocs.
which sold out in 30 minutes and was reselling for $400 online. But why does ugly luxury even work? Like, why would high-fashion trendsetters wear something inherently ridiculous?
It comes down to the mechanics of social status. Academic research into this specific trend, notably by Professor Ludovica Cesario at Lehigh University, revealed some fascinating stuff.
What did she find?
To generate real social cachet, a luxury product couldn't just be mildly ugly or slightly quirky. It had to be horrifically, unforgettably ugly.
Oh, so because if it's just a little ugly, people might think you just have bad taste.
Exactly.
But if it's aggressively, unapologetically hideous, it proves you are in on the joke.
You're wearing it ironically, and that requires a high degree of fashion confidence. Because these avant-garde explorers started wearing them, they activated a massive third segment, which is the fashion followers.
Oh, the followers.
Right. The followers wouldn't have been bold enough to wear an oversized chicken-scented foam clog on their own, but if the undisputed cool kids say it's high fashion, the followers buy in.
That's the leader-follower dynamic of the Matrix.
Exactly. The explorers effectively laundered the brand's reputation. They imbued it with cultural legitimacy. And this dynamic completely reversed Crocs' fortunes.
Okay, I understand the cool kids influencing the followers, but let me push back on the ecosystem aspect here.
Sure.
If Crocs leaned this hard into high-fashion runways and $400 chicken shoes, why didn't they alienate the nurses and the gardeners?
It's a great question.
Because isn't that exactly what Federico Marchionni did at Land's End? Why didn't the suburban gardeners feel betrayed by the Balenciaga crowd?
That is the absolute genius of how Crocs managed the relationship between these segments. They didn't pivot away from their core value, they expanded its definition.
Oh, I see.
The core value of Crocs has always been comfort, right?
Right.
Well, for the original feel-goods, comfort meant physical orthopedic support for a 12-hour shift. But for the new explorers, Crocs framed comfort as emotional comfort.
Wait, emotional comfort.
Yeah, the freedom of unapologetic self-expression, being entirely comfortable in your own skin, regardless of what society thinks.
Oh, wow. That is so smart. So they didn't just slap a high-fashion label on the shoe and tell the nurses to get lost.
No, not at all.
They created an umbrella philosophy.
Yeah.
Like, we make shoes for people who are comfortable being themselves.
Exactly. By making the brand explicitly and radically inclusive, they neutralize the conflict. If you are a fashion-forward explorer wearing Crocs as an act of rebellious self-expression, judging a nurse for wearing Crocs completely violates the brand ethos that you just bought into.
That's brilliant.
They harmonize the ecosystem so the groups didn't just tolerate each other, they philosophically supported one another's right to be there.
So Crocs survived by ensuring these two vastly different groups actually aligned under a shared philosophy.
Right.
But what happens if you have two massively different customer bases who don't influence each other, don't share a philosophy, and are just completely oblivious to one another?
Then you are managing separate, entirely walled-off communities. This is another quadrant.
Okay, so separate communities.
These are customer segments that extract divergent value from a single brand, but they are totally indifferent to the fact that other people use the brand differently. The most straightforward example of this is Pedialyte.
Oh, Pedialyte. I love this one.
It's so clear-cut.
You've got anxious parents buying it to rehydrate their sick toddlers.
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got college students buying it on a Sunday morning to cure a massive hangover.
Totally different use cases.
They are looking for entirely different benefits, but neither group is bothered by the other. The parents aren't offended that frat brothers drink it.
And the frat brothers don't care that there's a literal cartoon bear on the bottle. They peacefully coexist.
But managing this gets much more complicated with lifestyle brands, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Timberland is a masterclass in managing separate communities.
The boots.
Yeah. They launched in 1973 with a very specific purpose, manufacturing tough, waterproof utilitarian boots for blue-collar factory and construction workers in New England.
But by the 1990s, the boots organically caught fire with a completely different demographic.
The hip-hop community in New York City?
The cultural impact there was massive. I mean, you had Tupac, Biggie Smalls, Wu-Tang Clan all wearing them. Nas even had that famous lyric in, "The world is yours. Suede Timbs on my feet makes my cipher complete."
It's iconic.
They became a defining staple of 90s streetwear.
But initially, Timberland's corporate leadership was deeply uncomfortable with this. They viewed themselves as a rugged, function-first, outdoor brand. There was significant internal resistance.
Really? Even with all that free marketing?
Yeah, they even faced public accusations that they were actively trying to distance themselves from urban consumers to protect their blue-collar image.
Oh, yikes.
It took time for them to realize they were sitting on a cultural goldmine. But when they finally embraced the hip-hop community, they realized they couldn't just throw both groups into the same marketing campaign.
You know, this reminds me of, it's the laundry rule.
The laundry rule.
Yeah, it's like doing laundry. If you just toss your darks, your bright lights, and your delicate fabrics into the same hot wash cycle, everything bleeds together and the clothes are completely ruined.
That is exactly it.
To keep everything pristine, you have to run completely separate loads with hard boundaries.
And Timberland built an incredibly effective firewall between their loads of laundry. Today, if you are a construction worker, you are buying from the Timberland PRO line.
Which is all about function.
Right. It markets safety toes, anti-fatigue technology, electrical hazard protection. But if you are buying for style, you are looking at club-ready boots in limited edition colorways like purple and gold.
They keep them totally separated.
They run separate social media accounts, separate advertising campaigns, and distinct distribution channels. The two groups rarely interact within the brand's ecosystem.
We saw an even more extreme version of this with Lego, right? Because they didn't just ignore a separate community, they actively despised them at first.
Oh, the Lego story is fascinating. In the early 2000s, Lego was in a catastrophic financial position. They were roughly $800 million in debt and teetering on the edge of total bankruptcy.
$800 million.
Wow! And a massive contributor to this blind spot was their institutional hostility toward their adult fans of Lego.
They didn't want adults playing with their toys.
The corporate mindset at the time was entirely fixated on the traditional toy market metric, capturing a child's share of playtime. They viewed adults building with Legos as an anomaly that confused their data.
Or worse.
Yeah, or worse, something faintly embarrassing that detracted from the wholesome magic of childhood positioning.
That is wild to me. Imagine being an executive at a company bleeding hundreds of millions of dollars, and you have grown adults waving cash in your face, begging for products, and you're essentially saying, "No, please leave, you're ruining our vibe."
It sounds crazy in hindsight, but desperation forces clarity.
That's true.
Once new leadership came in and realized the untapped potential of this separate community, the pivot was monumental. They didn't just sell kids' toys to adults.
Right, it created a whole new lane.
They designed highly complex, sophisticated sets specifically engineered for the adult mind and aesthetic. Architectural models of Frank Lloyd Wright buildings, the intricate botanical collection.
I have one of those plant sets, actually.
They're beautiful
It
and nostalgic, massive sets of the Seinfeld apartment or the Titanic. They framed Lego not as a children's toy, but as a premium, mindful design object to be proudly displayed in an adult's office.
and it worked.
By building this separate lane, their adult market grew 4 times over and helped save the company.
We just saw this happen with Stanley, too.
Oh yes, the Stanley Cups.
For over a century, they sold those rugged green thermoses to outdoorsmen and military personnel.
Very niche, very tough.
Then, a few years ago, they noticed a small group of moms on the go buying their quencher cups. So Stanley physically separated the digital ecosystems.
A perfect execution of the laundry rule.
The outdoorsmen were targeted with camping ads on specialized websites. Meanwhile, the new demographic was targeted through a massive network of Instagram influencers and affiliate links.
And the results were insane.
By managing these separate communities, Stanley's revenue went from $73 million in 2019 to over $700 million in 2023. It caused literal stampedes in Target aisles for limited edition pink Starbucks cups.
But, and this is crucial, the caveat to this success is the immense operational burden.
It's not easy to do.
Running a separate community strategy is incredibly expensive. You are essentially operating parallel businesses under one corporate roof.
Because you have two of everything.
Exactly. You are funding different marketing mixes, separate digital teams, bespoke product development, distinct retail pipelines. If Stanley ever accidentally blasted their influencer-led pastel pink quencher ads to their rugged outdoorsman mailing list,
Or vice versa.
the firewall breaches, and you risk alienating both sides.
So keeping people apart is wildly expensive.
Huh.
But what if your entire business model, your literal survival, depends on cramming every single one of these different people into the exact same room?
Then you are operating a connected community, our final quadrant.
Connected community.
In this ecosystem, the core product doesn't just tolerate a massive, diverse crowd, it requires it. Customers seek collaborative value.
Meaning the more people, the better.
Right. The offering becomes exponentially more valuable with every new person who joins, regardless of whether those people have anything in common.
It's like the digital equivalent of a massive city center. Platforms like LinkedIn, Venmo, Airbnb, Roblox.
Right.
The entire value proposition of LinkedIn is that everyone is there. You have corporate recruiters, college students looking for internships, CEOs posting motivational essays.
And people trauma dumping about their toxic workplaces.
Exactly. Their goals are completely divergent, but the network effect dictates that more people equals a richer, more effective database.
And the quintessential case study for aggressively engineering this kind of network effect was the video game Farmville in 2009.
Oh my gosh, Farmville.
The developer, Zynga, realized they didn't need to build a connected community from scratch if they could just hijack an existing one. So they deeply integrated the game into Facebook's architecture.
Which explains why my entire feed in 2009 was spammed by people I hadn't spoken to since middle school, begging me to help them water their digital strawberries.
It was a brilliantly manipulative use of social capital,
Just so annoying.
but effective. The game's mechanics deliberately stalled your progress unless you invited your real-world network to join. It weaponized your actual friendships to exponentially grow its user base.
And it got huge.
It reached an astonishing 80 million active monthly users at its peak.
That strategy works wonders when you can piggyback off Facebook's millions of users. But let's look at the cold start problem.
Okay, yeah, the cold start.
If I download a brand new app like Uber back in 2010, and I open it on a Friday night and see 0 cars on the map, I am deleting that app in 5 seconds and never looking back.
Absolutely.
How do you force a connected community into existence from absolute zero?
It's the ultimate chicken and egg dilemma. Riders won't open the app if there are no drivers, and drivers won't log on if there are no riders.
Right. So what do you do?
To overcome this, a brand has to establish what we call a minimum viable network. And the tactics required are almost always brute force, highly aggressive, and wildly expensive.
They basically have to artificially pump life into the ecosystem until it can sustain itself.
Precisely. In its early days, Uber intentionally lost massive amounts of money to subsidize rides.
To make it cheap for the riders.
Right, making it artificially cheap so passengers would choose the app over a taxi. But simultaneously, they had to ensure cars were actually on the road. So they lured drivers with heavy financial incentives.
Like surge pricing.
Yes, they implemented surge pricing to guarantee drivers maximize their revenue during peak hours. They even offered financing options for drivers to lease cars.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but under the strict condition that they met a minimum driving quota on the platform. And furthermore, they didn't launch nationwide. They hyper-focused on high-density urban areas,
Like downtowns.
specifically nightlife districts at closing time. They were engineering a scenario where demand and supply were forced to collide.
So they essentially bought the network.
They did.
But once you cram all those people into the room, how do you stop them from ruining the experience for each other? I mean, if anyone can be a driver and anyone can be a writer, you are inevitably going to get bad actors.
And that is the fragile linchpin of a connected community. Volume is meaningless without quality control.
Because one bad ride ruins the app for you.
Exactly. If you pack a room with terrible people, the network effect works in reverse. People leave, which degrades the value, causing more people to leave.
So how did Uber fix that?
Uber survived because they instituted a draconian two-way rating system.
Ah, the 5 stars.
It forced both drivers and passengers to behave. It established a baseline of trust between strangers.
Airbnb did something similar, right?
Yes, Airbnb utilized a similar tactic early on by offering free, professional photography to their initial hosts.
Oh, to make the listings look good.
They knew that if the first 1,000 listings on their site looked like sketchy, poorly lit basements, no traveler would ever book them. The community would die on day one. You have to pack the room, but you also have to aggressively police the behavior within it.
So if we pull all of this together and look at the bigger picture of the growth dilemma, it becomes painfully obvious that simply acquiring more random customers is a game of Russian roulette.
It really is.
Whether a brand is managing a delicate, walled-off ecosystem of separate communities like Timberland, or aggressively brute-forcing a connected community like Uber, or leaning into a leader-follower dynamic to reinvent themselves like Crocs, success is never accidental.
No, it requires highly intentional, deeply psychological segment relationship management. You cannot view your customers as isolated numbers on a ledger.
They aren't just data points.
Right. You have to understand the invisible webs of influence, status, and identity that connect them all. When you ignore those webs, you end up like Land's End, alienating everyone in a desperate bid for a demographic that never wanted you in the first place.
So as you go about your day-to-day, I challenge you to look at the brands you interact with. Think about the water bottle on your desk, the shoes you laced up this morning, or the social media apps you scroll through on your commute. Ask yourself, which of these ecosystems are you participating in?
It's a great question to ask.
Are you an explorer driving a new trend? Or are you peacefully sharing a brand with a completely different community you've never even noticed?
And consider this final thought as you evaluate those items. We all operate under the assumption that we are the ones choosing the brands that fit our personal needs and aesthetics, right?
Naturally.
But given how deeply and mathematically these companies engineer their customer bases, you have to wonder how much of your own identity, your sense of belonging, and your personal style was actually shaped by a brand carefully orchestrating which other customers they allowed into your orbit.
Wow.
When you look at the items that define you, did you choose the brand or did the brand expertly curate the community around you?